Hi, and welcome to Career Mobility with James Mcilvena in February 2026. Hi, James. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you, TJ.
Looking good? Got the old branding on. We're ready to roll.
We are ready to roll.
Fantastic. So, welcome to 2026. My goodness, here we go. This is the first of this year. There's been a lot happening in January, though. So, we're going to talk to that in a moment. We're going to be diving into, though, what 2026 has in store for anybody who is in career transition. There is no doubt that the last year, even 3 years, have been a really challenging place to be. We know that there are still some challenges in the job market, but we do know that there are some really interesting ways to navigate now, which we're definitely across and we want to share with you. So we're going to talk about, what it really means this year for job seekers, for career changes, and also anyone who's rethinking what is next in their working life. So James, I have the first question. It really is it's really about unpacking some of those things that are, whether it's hype, whether it's whether we're moving confidently or intentionally into the next working world of work. What, James, do you think, from your vantage point? Obviously, you've just been overseas to our strategic leadership conference in Portugal with all of the leaders across the globe at LHH. What kind of conversations have you heard? What things are you seeing? And what do you think is in store for job seekers in 2026?
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, TJ. I mean, for me personally, it's been a fantastic start to January. I was reminded it took me and just a couple of other million Aussies descended on Japan for their snow season. So I got to take a good break and start the year refreshed. So before I get into answering your question, it was just, again, a personal reminder about how important it is for anyone in job search. If you didn't have some time off over the break, if you're feeling like you're getting a little bit worn out, I certainly was as we closed out the end of last year. Make sure you're actually giving yourself permission, giving yourself some time to refresh, because I know I felt myself coming back, much more energized, much more motivated, and do better work when you're in the right headspace.
Yeah.
So the second part, then I got back, had about 4 days in the chair, and then was off to Portugal to meet with the rest of the LHH Global Leadership team. And your question was one that was discussed because it has so much relevance for how we evolve our support and our services and how we connect those candidates, which the majority of our candidates are still looking for a pathway into another role.
Yeah.
What are the trends and how do we adapt to ensure that the support we're providing is in line with what's going to resonate best in the market? The answer to your question then is, what was the consensus over the largest change or trend? And that would really be, I think, it's hiring for capability and it's hiring for future capability. Now, that's not a new concept, but a lot of people, I think, talked about it, spoke about, hiring for skills, hiring for future capability, hiring for learning capacity, hiring for agility, hiring with a specific focus on people who could demonstrate their ability to navigate through change, lead through change, all of those types of things. Yet,
Yeah.
yet in practice, it would still revert back to what's on the job description, and they still hired very closely to the job description. And all those things I just mentioned were nice to haves. The shift has been actually that order is starting to reverse in a lot of locations, in a lot of countries, where actually that adaptability, the learning agility, the ability to actually understand and move and grow with an organization has started to become more important than ticking off the boxes of capability and skills against a job description alone. That doesn't mean they've, you know, thrown the job description out the window and you don't need the core capabilities and skills to do the role. It's just that finally, after a lot of years and a lot of talk, there seems to be a significant shift in focus to hiring for future capability and people who demonstrate an ability to grow with an organisation.
Yeah, absolutely. We're kind of sitting in interesting times. We're hearing though, of course, as well that the activity in the market is obviously intensifying. We know there are a lot of candidates on the market for various reasons, but job ads, when we look at the stats, are staying relatively flat. What I've seen today, though, and I was saying this to you before we jumped on, is that there is just a surge today. It seems of people just either sharing or reposting roles, etc. So there's a lot going on in the market. What do you think this means for the average job seeker today?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's listened to previous discussions we've had, anyone who wants to go through and reference the back catalogue will hear the one thing come up again and again and again in the advice we provide because it's important, because we know it works. And that's actually the importance of networking.
Yeah,
And the fact that people in transition have reported back to us for a long period of time, job ads still serve a purpose, but job ads are becoming less and less as the way people approach how they bring talent on board. Uh,
yeah,
they're becoming less and less the main avenue in order to be able to come up with the right candidate pool. So what you're seeing is really just the way people go and look for and refine a candidate pool faster to tap into that and understand that networking is a faster path. So job ads will always exist, and again, it depends on the individual and the situation. But do not rely on job ad responses alone if you don't have networking as a part, and I would suggest a very large part of your
yeah.
strategy. Then have a serious think about it.
Yeah, and networking means many different things as well. So that'll be a whole nother section we'll talk about another time, but we'll come back to that. So career change is definitely becoming mainstream, as I said, for many reasons. Obviously, in our business, in outplacement, we're very busy, but a lot of people are choosing to make changes just because of what's happening in the market as well. What do you think then a successful career transition looks like in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the event, and then there's the understanding, the learning, the preparedness to be more flexible and more agile about how you see yourself, whether that's what roles you consider, how you acquire skills, what you need to know. So, staying stagnant when it comes to acquisition of skills, being too inward looking, so understanding the dynamics internally of your organization, but being a little bit blinkered to anything going on outside of your organization. Like, all of these are things that, yes, they're important when people are in career transition, but the shift and the change is that they're now important all the time. And
Yeah,
we hear it time and time again from the people who work with us, transition to a new role successfully, and to say, what I've learned was not just to get me through that patch.
yeah,
What I've learned, I'm now going to adopt to ensure that that patch doesn't occur again. And so the
yeah,
answer is, really understanding those core fundamentals that people who are standing still need to be within the comfort level. Not everyone wants to be continuously hunting down new learning, but do something. And at least at the very minimum, make sure you're taking the opportunities provided to evolve with your role, stretching yourself, putting yourself into positions where you do get a little bit uncomfortable and learn new things, whether that's adoption of AI or greater productivity measures or whatever is important, to your organization in regards to how it's looking to transform into the future. It is so important now to get a little bit uncomfortable, not just rest on your laurels in a role,
yeah.
and actually invest that time in learning. And equally, because your core question is about transition, those are skills that you need to pick up and apply throughout the transition journey.
Absolutely. And I mean, anyone who's in an LHH program has access to multiple ways of learning, whether that's webinars, obviously learning, LinkedIn learning, various different sort of inputs from coaches and, various resources. So yeah, definitely doing that and staying active around that, as you say. It really is the proverbial sponge.
Yeah, and the General Assembly content, which sits in Career
Yeah,
Studio for those that
exactly.
want like sort of an AI angle to it, plus all of that
Yeah,
stuff that sits in LinkedIn Learning as well. So yeah,
yeah,
there is a multitude of things you can do if you're struggling to decide what to do or how to direct it, because it can be a little
yeah,
bit overwhelming. You know, look at the assessment tools available and discuss with your coach. Because like a lot of things, when you make a start, it gets much easier because normally, like your Netflix, like your Spotify now, you'll get recommendations and it'll send you on a pathway. But you
yeah.
can only get recommendations and be sent on a pathway when you make a start. So, the call out is make a start. If you don't know where to start, do an assessment, look at your preferences, and have a discussion with your coach.
Yeah, as they say, a problem shared is a problem halved. So yeah, get some ideas and insight and input. Yeah, really, really great. One of the things I've been hearing about recently is what they're calling bridge roles. And so, it's really like, what are the best bridge roles do you think that can help people move between industries without having to start from scratch in this market?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best bridge roles, without being too specific, cover two things, right? A bridge role is either something you're doing because it's helping you acquire a new skill. So you don't want to go into a bridge role if the outcome is to learn something, acquire a new skill, and say 95% of this role I know. It's not
Yeah.
serving a purpose. Then be honest with yourself and say it's actually not a bridge role. It's actually just something to bring in some money, or it's a stopgap until I find something that I really want to land in longer term. Or a bridge role that doesn't have skill acquisition needs to introduce you to like a new network, a new industry. So bridge roles can be incredibly useful to dip a toe in the water for industry change. And so those two
Mm,
things, either assess that you're picking up a skill and a skill that you value and a skill that you think is going to enhance your employability in future, or it's
yeah.
introducing you to a new network or a new industry. And if either of those two things are met, bridge roles are an incredibly powerful tool to introduce into the arsenal, and it breaks up what can often be, particularly for people who are on sort of longer programs, or longer cycles, it can break up the monotony of feeling like you're consistently just in job search mode.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that idea of also trying out in different sort of industries as well. I think, when you bring a very capable, transferable skill set to new industry, it can be a real beneficial sort of almost exchange, really, in terms of learning, but also adding value. So yeah, that's a
Yeah.
brilliant idea. Love it. Now, one
And
of the
and
things,
where they might
yeah, sorry.
where they might be resistant, TJ, to like a perm role, like a bridge role is like a lower risk barrier to entry to see if the person's
Yeah.
going to adapt to the industry and pick up the knowledge required. And so, it is often an avenue to make an industry change where in a perm role, you might end up getting sort of discounted, even though you've got great transferable skill.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, we obviously work a lot with people who are in roles that have been displaced. So they're now looking to sort of move into a new role. It could be a similar role, but we're finding certainly the stats are supporting that a lot of people are moving into different roles. Another phenomenon we're hearing about in the market, and I couldn't sort of catch up with you today without sort of, talking about it, was this whole new thing about job hugging. So there is a talk in the market at the moment, and certainly people will hear about it, that people feel stuck or afraid to move. And I can totally understand that given the state of the job market. What advice would you give to job huggers who are in a different situation, but essentially may have been in their role for a while, but simply are just scared to leave versus kind of still being fulfilled by what they're doing?
Yeah, and I love it. There's a term every year that is coined. Someone's got to have something like as a centerpiece to coin a new term when they speak at an HR conference. And this year it's job huggers. So your question is, what advice would I have?
Mm,
I think the first thing is to actually provide yourself or have an honest assessment for yourself of, if you feel like you're in that scenario, like, what are the drivers? What are the reasons?
Yeah.
Are you overwhelmed? Do you feel that the external market is too competitive? Do you feel like you're not going to have your needs met when it comes to meeting your financial goals? Like, what are the drivers that
Yeah.
is preventing you? Because job hugging is fine if you love your job and you wake up every day and you've got a spark and a fire in the belly to do it. Job hugging is not fine if you're just getting by, bearing the role, not growing, and not enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
So the answer to your question is, it's almost that first assessment, and then by that assessment it can be a diagnostic of what the fear is, and then you can look at, well, if you have that fear, then what are some safe ways to investigate options without necessarily resigning without something to go to? So there are many things people can do, but at the core of it, if you don't understand what the drivers are behind that mindset, then you won't really know how to move forward and move around it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's very classic in terms of a career transition. Those, really kind of self-awareness and really being clear, having the clarity around what you can do, what might be a gap, and what you'd like to do next, and then how you bridge that gap to get to where you want to go. Interestingly, in terms of future proofing, what capabilities do you think will future proof careers over the next 3 to 5 years, James? What do you think are going to be those sort of skills or kind of behaviors or attributes that people are going to need to really, sort of dig into and develop?
Yeah. Acceptance of change, adapting to change, leading through change for people who are in leadership roles,
Yeah,
all levels, all industries. That is the core of it. A lot of people, or a lot is made of, and I think a lot of people might have expected the first answer is, like, make sure you understand AI. At its core, AI is just one driver of change. It's not the only driver of change. So a broader answer is, being curious about change, having a playbook for how you cope with change, articulating to new and potential employers how you can help and be a change agent rather than a resistor of change. Because I can guarantee you, all organizations are looking at individuals and saying, we know that the pace of change has never been greater.
mm, absolutely.
We can't have people on board who are going to push back against that. We need more change agents. We need more people who are capable. We need more people who know how to lead through it. And if that is, the adoption of artificial intelligence, if it's whatever it might be, understand for your role in your industry what those major changes are and get informed about it. So, if it is automation of process and robotics, get informed about that. If it's AI, get informed about that. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to be an expert,
Yeah.
but you need to have like a basic understanding and a position on it, because you'll be asked.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to have position. All right. So practical guidance. We always like to make sure that people leave these sort of conversations with some really kind of just things they can do immediately to kind of really move the needle, as they say. So what are the three most important things that you think job seekers should be doing right now to stand out in what is essentially a bit of an oversaturated application, sort of market and the pipeline of jobs?
Yeah. One, and I know you've referenced, we'll cover it in a lot more detail, and networking does mean a lot of things.
Yeah.
But as you referenced before, it is increasingly becoming a trend that people are going out and promoting opportunities through works rather than job ads. So
Yeah.
if you're sitting here and you're listening to this gun, you're not speaking to me, James. I've already got like a foolproof networking plan. Sit down and
Great.
reassess it and figure out whether you're doing it. Like, uh, I, I have had multiple discussions with people like, oh, no, I've got that covered, James. And I go, all right, let's have a look. Then no,
Yeah.
you don't have that covered. Here are at least
Yeah.
5 things you could be investigating and doing. So that would be number one. Number two would be, what is going to be your curiosity or your driver, and it links to that that last answer I gave, which is,
Mm.
you know, how are you curious about change? How have you dealt with change in the past? What could you learn that will help you be more prepared for change or to answer a question around how you're going to evolve personally and within a role in future. So, and that will normally involve a degree of using the learning tools available to you. So, networking, curiosity around which learning you can take on board. And the final one, I know you and I've spoken about this in the past as well, DJ, is like be really clear on what we call your marketing plan. So,
Yeah.
who are you? What do you represent? Why are you a compelling proposition for any potential employer? Because it is exactly that. It's about standing out from the crowd. And
Yeah.
wishy-washy, I haven't really researched the industry, your company, what's needed from this role, future direction of the department, the strategy, whatever. That doesn't cut it in a market that's saturated with candidates. So super clear market plan. And then the other part of market plan is knowing where to target your efforts. So
Yeah.
yeah, wide and shallow works in some instances, but certainly not in this instance. You want to be specific and you want to actually go deep in order to get the best possible outcomes. And so that's
Yeah.
deep in regards to the number of relationships you have within a potential target client, deep in regards to the research you do, deep in regards to the preparation you do, in regards to making sure whatever documents you put forward are
Yeah.
well thought out and compelling, not just, oh, yeah, where was that again? Oh, just forward from like the last one I sent. No, you know, narrow and deep is like is the way, and that can only come through having a very structured marketing plan, be clear about what you're doing, what you're going after, and what you want.
Absolutely. It really helps people to understand, really what you're up to in your own job search. I think that's kind of the compelling thing. And it inspires people to kind of go, I didn't know you were interested in that, but let me see who I know that could help you. So it's just, it's definitely a gem, I think, in that sort of networking piece. So just to put you under a little bit of time sort of structure here, because I think this is like a really cool thing. So like if people had to take some steps in the next 24 hours and they were looking to pivot industries, James, what actions would you suggest someone would take in the next 24 hours to really start to, again, move the dial on that discussion and move things in the direction they want to go?
Yep. So find someone you trust, like it's a low barrier of entry, who is in that
Yep.
industry. So through your network, find out someone and just sit down and have a chat to them. Pick their brain with no specific agenda. You're not like, you're in this industry, can you get your job? It's like, can I just discuss what you do? I'm genuinely interested.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about the trends? Can you tell me about what you do to stay current? Can you tell me about when you're employing what you look for without directly asking for anything? So having a discussion with someone is number one. Number two,
Yeah.
less useful than number one, but still useful, is like do your research. And so part of that research, what might be looking at what type of roles exist, what are they asking for, what are the common denominators, and then doing a quick assessment. Do I have it? Do I not have it? And then focus on what you already have, which are your transferable skills. How you're going to articulate them, and focus on what you don't have, which will become a learning plan on either how you're going to acquire the skills, or if you're not going to acquire the skills, how you would respond when asked if you're expecting that you are going to be able to learn that in the role.
Brilliant. And I would add to that, if you're stuck for a plan, book in with your LHH coach and have a discussion around what's next for you. So that's also something that you can do within those 24 hours. if you're needing extra inspiration, and someone to bounce those ideas around with. So absolutely. So final question for you, James, and I think this is just again like that kind of like wrap this all up in a really, we're not talking presents because we're past the Christmas time, but what do you think career mobility really looks like in 2026? We've seen in the past that people used to climb the ladder in careers. We've seen obviously with portfolio careers that people have got more sort of broad careers. But what do you think is going to look like this year? Is what's going to make that career transition easier to navigate? And, what is career mobility going to look like in 2026?
I think that what we're seeing is that there is specific talent segments, or roles that are becoming really scarce and really hard to hire for employers. And then on the other hand, we touched on it earlier in this discussion, they've got some core roles where they're inundated with a larger number of applicants than what they've seen in the past 3 years. Go back to 21 and 22, it was 2021 and 2022, it was a very different job market. So it's actually understanding, and again, this is an individual thing. I'm giving a general answer, but this needs to be applied individually. What linked to your preferences and your skills and your capabilities, and shout out for anyone who hasn't used it yet. There's a golden opportunity to use like the Career Canvas tool, which you can input this type of information, and it's actually going to give you some what we call job inspirations. So it will, some might hit the mark, others might be, interesting idea, but not for me. But get curious, because what mobility looks like is people actually being more informed around what's available and self-determining. The whole idea of career mobility being, the right thing will pop up, or if I talk to enough people, the right thing will fall in my lap. No. What we've found is that has been one of the, both for internal mobility, but then also for external mobility, it's been the number one inhibitor of people being able to move successfully, when it comes to sort of change or pivots in their career. So be deliberate, understand your options, use Career Canvas if you need to, and again, it links a little bit back to that marketing plan, have a clear play about what you want to rule in and what you want to rule out. And when you're clear about how you want to evolve, then everything else can fall in place. What do I learn? How do I discuss a strategy with my coach? And who I'm going to speak to network? Am I going to take a bridging role? What are the type of things that are going to enable me to get there?
Yeah, perfect. I think that's the same if someone's in a role or in transition, having those proactive conversations. And as you say, that level of clarity and curiosity is so, so important. So brilliant. Thank you so much. So great to hear from you. I know there's a million other things that we can discuss, and they will definitely be rolled out across this year, but great to see you. Glad you had a great break, and definitely look forward to hearing more about what's happening in career mobility in 2026.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, TJ. Pleasure as always.
Cheers, James. See ya.